Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the inaugural seminar of the Labour Friends of Cyprus. Can I say how utterly delighted I am to see so many of you here tonight at what is a groundbreaking event in the Cypriot community in the UK. My name is Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos, and I will be chairing tonight's proceedings. Before those proceedings start, I just want to say a few words. The Labour Friends of Cyprus was founded by Dr. Vasilis Mavrou about 2 years ago to put on high-profile or high-level seminars with high-profile speakers. So what you are going to see tonight and hear tonight, in my opinion and in the opinion of many other people, really is a first in the Cypriot community in the UK. You will certainly never hear in seminars put on by the Labour Friends of Cyprus references to Cypriot food, holidaying in Cyprus, Cypriot hospitality. That sort of nonsense will never be tolerated at these seminars. And let me also give you a cast iron guarantee that you will never hear someone at this seminar say what I've heard on a number of occasions, and I regard it as being a very disrespectful, offensive, patronising, colonial mindset when speakers say, Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots get on so well in London, why can't they get on well in the UK? That, I assure you, you will never, ever hear at a seminar put on by the Labour Friends of Cyprus. Now, let me just turn to the structure for tonight. We will have Dr. Vasilis Mavrou. He will provide an oversight of the historical perspective to what is being discussed tonight. Then we will have our 4 speakers. Then we will enter the question and answer session. And I very much welcome as many people as possible to ask questions, but those questions have to be strictly in accordance with the title of the seminar tonight. And you're more than welcome to make a comment about what you've heard tonight, but once again, strictly in accordance with the title of the seminar. If someone asks a question which is irrelevant, then I will ask them to sit down. And if someone makes a comment which is irrelevant, likewise, I will make them sit down. I don't tolerate heckling. I don't tolerate shouting out. Once again, if that sort of behaviour occurs tonight, you will leave the building. So just to recap, the title of tonight's inaugural seminar is Britain's Constitutional Responsibilities to the Republic of Cyprus, Past, Present and Future. So let's get this show on the road, and I'd like to call the founder and president of the Labour Friends of Cyprus, and who, without his magnificent work tonight, wouldn't have happened, Dr. Vasilis Mavrou.
I would like to thank all of you for supporting our event today. A special welcome goes to Pater Iosif Palouras, the Honourable MP Pambos Haralambous, the President of the World Federation of Cypriots in Great Britain, Andreas Papavripidis, the Secretary of the Federation, Andreas Karaoulis, and all our distinguished guests. Today, 1st of October, Cyprus celebrates. Let me welcome as well the MP, Catherine West. She has just arrived. Your seat is next to Bambos. Today, 1st of October, Cyprus celebrates its Independence Day, an independence, however, that did not fulfill the wishes of the Cypriot people. After suffering hundreds of years of Ottoman enslavement and 82 years of British colonial rule, Cyprus finally became an independent sovereign state in 1960, after serious pressures from an armed struggle taken up by the Greek population of the island, demanding independence and union with Greece, Enosis. Britain took over the colonization of Cyprus from the Ottoman Empire and fiercely resisted their legitimate demands for Enosis and at the same time the universal right of self-determination of the Cypriot people. The Greek Revolution and the establishment of an independent Greek state in 1828 was a turning point for the nationalist aspirations of the Christian population of Cyprus. It was natural to create a union of Cyprus with Greece at the time, since many Cypriots had fought and died in the Greek Revolution. The peasants had their own reasons to unite with Greece. Unbearable taxation brought extreme poverty and led many to emigrate, resort to charity, or in some cases, convert to Islam. Surprisingly, the British position at the first years of colonization was very misleading. On many occasions, the British officials pointed out that the people of Cyprus were going to get their independence and unite with Greece sooner or later. Prime example along these lines is a public statement by Winston Churchill, the then colonial secretary, in 1907, when he visited the island. This promise and other similar ones were never materialized. Previously, the Cypriot people suffered tremendously under the Ottomans and lived under conditions of oppression, misery, and poverty. Britain colonized Cyprus in 1878 after taking over from the Ottomans. The people of Cyprus had many expectations for better days from this change, but it never came. The British oppressed the people of Cyprus and forced unbearable taxation, illiteracy, social unrest, and finally unemployment and poverty. Instead, they sponsored imports from abroad, which boosted foreign capital while at the same time promoted austerity in the country. The people of Cyprus were seen as a tool for economic exploitation. But more than that, Britain, unlike the Ottomans, sought Cyprus as a military base and not just a colony to be exploited economically. This policy of the British drove the people of Cyprus to finally revolt, and it wasn't something new for them. During the Ottoman years, there were mass protests, even uprisings, against harsh taxation, poverty, exploitation, and maladministration, as well as social and political oppression imposed to the people of Cyprus. Christians and Muslims fought side by side against their rulers. It is important to note that these revolts were purely based on class and not on religious lines. This ethnically common uprising was running parallel, or rather separately, from the Cypriot resistance and armed struggle against the Ottoman rule, led mainly by the Orthodox Christian Church. One of the most important uprisings during the British colonization of the island started in 1931, when there were riots in Nicosia and the burning down of the governor's house. In other areas, peasants and fishermen burned down government offices and police stations. The mobilization of the peasants and the newly created working class was directed against foreign capital and rule, as well as challenging social and political oppression and economic exploitation. Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriot peasants, as well as urban workers, were dissatisfied with the British colonial administration. Protests against economic exploitation and against discriminatory measures in favor of both the merchant class and foreign capital were carried out by both communities together. The consequent rise of the left and the creation of the Communist Party created a good enough reason for the British to a crackdown, which started with banning the party and taking its members to court. The Cyprus Communist Party and later AKEL helped tremendously in improving decisively the relations between the two communities. It is worth mentioning that after the 1931 rebellion, the Communist Party called on the peasants and workers to unite behind it, and particularly called on the Turkish Cypriot masses to join forces to fight imperialism. It was the inclusion of Turks and Greeks, members of the committees of trade unions, cooperatives, and other progressive bodies that made AKEL a representative Cypriot party. The peaceful coexistence, cooperation, and unity of the people of Cyprus were not last for long. The main obstacle was the British encouragement of separatism, which took different forms, such as the preferential treatment shown to the Turkish population of Cyprus. Turkish nationalism was another obstacle which was gradually developed into an anti-leftist, anti-Greek, and anti-ethnic cooperation ideology. Violence, intimidation, and blackmail reached their maximum point when, with the approval and encouragement of the British authorities, a Turkish Cypriot nationalist movement was organized in Cyprus. In its terror campaign, Volkan, and later on TMT, killed Turkish Cypriot and Greek Cypriot unionists and other progressives who wanted to promote cooperation and peace between the two communities. Among those killed were two members of AKEL Central Committee, the Turkish Kavazoglu and the Greek Mishaoulis. Enosis nationalism was gradually winning more and more supporters, since the British policy in Cyprus presented few other options to the people. The organized left in Cyprus, AKEL, and the unions in particular, representing both communities, failed to take a historic initiative in starting a lasting anti-imperialist revolt with the aim of gaining independence. They were satisfied with the sporadic demonstrations and strikes, and they seemed to lack vision for an organized and long-term anti-colonial, anti-imperialist revolt. This was contrary to other anti-colonial movements where the struggle for social reforms went hand in hand with the national liberation. In the meantime, the OCA organization, which was already formed in 1955, attracted members from all forms of life, but mainly working-class people and the peasantry. Its aims were to liberate Cyprus from the British rule and unite it with Greece. At the same time, however, EOKA's leadership, unlike its members, which had a poor peasant or working-class background, was anti-communist and refused to cooperate in any way with the organized left, and specifically the Communist Party. Turkish feelings in relation to nationalist claims for Enosis were not sympathetic, but this did not preclude their feelings of solidarity and loyalty towards Greek fellow workers and their common struggle against exploitation. Instead, it turned its guns on Democrats and leftists who openly opposed to its tactics. Both EOKA and TMT targeted, between others, the organized trade unions in Cyprus because they felt that they constituted a real threat to their authority and their respective nationalist plans. The preferential treatment of the Turkish minority in Cyprus by the British agitated the nationalistic feelings of the Greek Cypriots. Their basic equal opportunities rights were violated through the exclusion of Greek Cypriots from the higher post of the civil service and from other employment. There was, therefore, lots of suspicion and mistrust, which meant that the closeness of the two communities started to be seriously shaken. In their efforts to shift the anti-colonial struggle to a bicommunal conflict, the British rulers encouraged more and more Turks to enter local and public sector jobs, as well as the auxiliary police force. They trained a special mobile force comprising exclusively of Turks to clamp down on EOKA. The conflict of the two communities was exacerbated to a stage where pitched battles were fought between the two. It was obvious that Britain promoted this policy of dividing the people of Cyprus. The British Colonial Office knew and highly valued a policy of divide and rule from the beginning of their rule of Cyprus. In 1921, the principal clerk of the Cyprus Department of the Colonial Office observed that the presence of the Turkish community is an asset from a political standpoint. Updated to the realities of the 1950s, this meant that Britain would treat Cyprus as an internal matter if the issue was raised, but it would always view with favor a Turkish intrusion, because this would counterbalance the demands of the anti-colonial majority. The best, perhaps, example of admission by Britain that wanted and planned a divided island is a comment in the Manchester Guardian newspaper on the 2nd of April 1988 of Lieutenant Commander Martin Peckard, an intelligence officer sent to Cyprus by Britain in 1963. At the time of my own involvement, the maintenance of the sovereign base areas and other military facilities was deemed of paramount importance by the British and American governments, and their advisors certainly thought that this aim would more easily be achieved in a divided Cyprus than in a cohesive unitary state. Apart from appointments in the public service, the divide and rule policy was backed by tremendous economic assistance to those forces from both sides that facilitated conflict and division. Britain wasn't alone on that. The American minister George Ball directed aid to those forces in Cyprus who, for chauvinistic reasons, had an interest in inspiring intercommunal violence and, in addition, to empower an anti-communist warfare, as he publicly referred to it. The ethnic conflict between the two communities in Cyprus was designed to create a smokescreen claiming a simple antagonism between the two main communities, allegedly deriving from the Greek aspirations for enosis dated far back, even during the Ottoman rule, and the Turkish nationalist desires for Taksim, division of the island, dated much more recently and during the British colonization of the island. The fact that before 1955 there was no history of internal violence between the two communities, but instead ethnic unity based on common class struggles proves the above was wrong, and that Cyprus was the victim of a careful disguise in order for the imperialist powers to achieve their objectives. Turkish interests on Cyprus were revitalized by the British in order to create conditions for the division of the island. And indeed, Turkey responded by giving to the Turkish nationalists full support and direction. The intercommunal conflict assisted Turkey to claim their own slice of the cake once a solution was found. Unlike Turkey, Greece showed no proper interest on Cyprus. In fact, when in 1950 the Ethnarchy in Cyprus organized a petition for enosis, the Greek Prime Minister refused to receive the volumes of signatures. Since Britain had assisted the right-wing forces in winning the Greek Civil War, the government wanted to stay loyal to Britain. Furthermore, repeated 1951, 1952, 1953 calls by Archbishop Makarios that the Greek government takes the Cyprus issue to the United Nations fell on deaf ears. Later on, and after independence, Cyprus, a member of the non-aligned movement, came into direct conflict with the Athens dictatorial government, a member of NATO, which resulted in a junta coup in 1974 and the subsequent Turkish military invasion and occupation of a great part of Cyprus. Britain's answer to the anti-colonialist struggle and the conflict between the two communities was an attempt to include Greece and Turkey in the discussions for a solution to the problem. This was easily done, and while the liberation struggle was taking place, trilateral talks were held among these states. The involvement of Greece and Turkey in the disputes was finalized, and on 1958, the so-called Foot-Macmillan Partnership Plan was presented to the House of Commons. It called for a partnership of Cyprus's two communities, and among Britain, Greece and Turkey. After many proposals that aimed at dividing the island, the Cypriot ethnarch, Makarios, was left with no option but to sign the London and Zurich Constitution and treaties. He was told by the British Foreign Secretary Selwyn Lloyd, take it or leave it, with the clear implication that leaving it meant partition. Enosis was excluded. Finishing now. Enosis was excluded, and the Independence Compact appeared to guarantee the Turkish Cypriots' rights and power sharing. For the Greek Cypriots, however, it contained the seeds of partition. It was a conditional independence that had to contend with internal and external limitations. The internal limitations included the breaking of the principle of a unitary state and the creation of a separate categories of citizenship for Greeks and Turks. The constitution was undemocratic, unworkable, unjust, and unfair, as well as ethnically divisive, sectarian, and racist. As a result, although Cyprus is an independent country, its northern part is still occupied by Turkey, and the refugees cannot return back to their homes and land to live in conditions of peace under the legitimate government of the Republic of Cyprus. Being members of the Labour Friends of Cyprus, we are looking forward for a Labour government under Jeremy Corbyn that would honour its guarantor responsibilities derived from the 1960 agreements and assist in finding a just solution to the Cyprus problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mavru, for what was a very insightful oversight to Britain's policy towards Cyprus. We're now going to proceed to the four speakers. Before that happens, each speaker has a maximum of 15 minutes. On the 13th minute, I will tell them they have 2 minutes left, and after 2 minutes, they either stop talking or I ask them to stop talking. Okay, so the first speaker tonight is Anna Fiologou. She's a member of the House of Representatives in Cyprus, representing the Famagusta Association.
Important event in relation to the constitutional role of Britain according to the Constitution of the Republic of Cyprus. When I entered Parliament 2 years ago, I promised myself that I will always speak the truth in my mind and adhere to my principles, even at the expense of political cost, because I was never fond of professional politicians who would say anything to their people as long as they secure their votes at the ballot boxes. Let me tell you from the outset that I don't have a legal background, as I am an economist by profession. So my speech is based on my personal views insofar as the subject of tonight's seminar. I did not live or experience the tragic events of Cyprus of 1974 due to the age factor, although I come from a family of refugees from Famagusta. But fortunately, there are a lot of well-documented sources for the younger generations to research for the Cyprus history and the involvement of foreign powers in its affairs. One of those powers surely was Great Britain, who has a long foothold in Cyprus under different legal pretexts since 1878 until today. Before going any further with my speech, let me clarify and correct a public misconception that Great Britain is in Cyprus to keep the peace between the Greeks and the Turks, something which is not true at all, as Britain is in Cyprus to preserve its own strategic interest through its so-called two sovereign bases and other military installations on the island, as we have a strategic position on the crossroads of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. So let's be honest about this, that British rule did not come out of love for Cyprus or its people. In 1960, with the signing of the Treaties of Establishment, Guarantee, and Alliance, Britain secured the sovereign status of the two military bases and also other military installations, training areas, communication stations which are spread all over the Cyprus territory and are crucial to the strategic interest of the United Kingdom. Great Britain needs and always needed a foothold in Cyprus, and they would have done anything to secure that foothold, as history has shown to us. Although Turkey renounced any rights on Cyprus with the signing of international treaties, Britain, when faced with the Enosis aspiration of Cypriots with Greece, made sure to bring into the fold the Turkish Cypriot card to safeguard its full hold to Cyprus. We must have in mind that on the 4th of June 1878, the Ottomans, in fear from Russian encroachment, leased Cyprus to Britain, according to the Congress of Berlin, so that Britain could protect the ailing Ottoman Empire using Cyprus as a military outpost. After 45 years elapsed, the newly inaugurated Republic of Turkey renounced any claim to sovereignty over Cyprus in favor of Britain, as stipulated in Articles 20 and 21 of the Treaty of Lausanne. So in 1925, Cyprus was annexed and became a British Crown colony. Surely, Great Britain, with the signing of the above treaties in 1960, did not only have rights and prerogative powers in the use of the whole of the Cypriot territory, but undertook responsibilities towards the Republic of Cyprus and its citizens. According to Article 2 of the Treaty of Guarantee, Greece, Turkey, and the United Kingdom recognized and guaranteed the independence, territorial integrity, and security of the Republic of Cyprus and also the state affairs established by the basic articles of its constitution. Also, Greece, Turkey, and the United Kingdom undertook to prohibit, so far as it concerns them, any activity aimed at promoting directly or indirectly either union of Cyprus with any other state or partition of the island. Also, Article 4 of the said guarantee stipulates that in the event of a breach of the provisions of the treaty, Greece, Turkey, and the United Kingdom undertake to consult together with respect to the representations or to take measures necessary to ensure observance of those provisions. If no agreement for common or concerted action proved to be possible by the three guarantor powers, each of the three guaranteeing powers reserved the right to take action with the sole aim of re-establishing the state of affairs created by the treaty. The Treaties of Establishment, Guarantee, and Alliance signed by the Cyprus Republic, Turkey, Greece, and Great Britain are valid agreements enforceable by law, international law in our case, and any breach has legal consequences for all parties involved. The Cyprus Republic consideration in recognizing sovereignty of the two military bases in terms of the contract law is simply the guaranteeing by Britain of its independence, territorial integrity, and security of the Republic of Cyprus. Also, the state of affairs established by the basic articles of its constitution in exchange of the 2 military sovereign bases and the other facilities afforded by the Republic of Cyprus to Great Britain. It is a fact that Great Britain failed to fulfill its obligations towards the Republic of Cyprus in 1974 and continues to do so even today, as Turkey has partitioned the island and promoted vigorously the ethnic cleansing not only of the Greek Cypriots but also of the Turkish Cypriots, who are now a minority in the north as thousands of Turkish mainland settlers continue to float into Cyprus in an effort by Turkey to change the demographic character of people of Cyprus. Even the threats of Turkey and its continuing aggressive behavior and approach as far as the hydrocarbon program in the exclusive economic zone of the Republic of Cyprus go unheeded by Great Britain and has done nothing to protect the sovereign rights of Cyprus to explore its own national resources. As it has been announced, separate negotiations will begin between the Republic of Cyprus and the British government on the status of the bases after Brexit. Following the exception requested and received by Cyprus from the EU negotiating team for Brexit, Cyprus is the only country in the European Union to have the opportunity to negotiate on a bilateral basis with Britain over Brexit and not through the EU institutions as required by the EU-Britain agreement. Negotiations between the two parties are expected to be tough, as Britain will want to maintain its sovereign strategic rights in Cyprus, while the Cypriot government will ask to receive benefits possible from Britain's exit from the EU, and I personally hope that one of them will be the obligatory help by Britain to solve the Cyprus problem with the end of Turkish occupation and partition of Cyprus. The above negotiations by the Republic of Cyprus and Great Britain will be affected and should be affected, in my opinion, by two new recent developments in the area of international law and British domestic law. Firstly, on the 30th July 2018, the British Supreme Court in preliminary court ruling decided that the British bases are a remnant of Cyprus colonization by Britain and not a new entity as argued by the British government at the court proceedings. Using a citation from Halsbury Laws of England, the court, in other words, decided that the two bases are regarded as constituting colonies by conquest and cession as from the 5th November 1914. Secondly, the recent legal case involving Mauritius and Britain before the International Court of Justice in The Hague, which relates to the dispute between Great Britain and Mauritius concerning the illegal detachment of the Hagos Archipelago from the rest of the British colony of Mauritius in 1965, by Britain 3 years before independence and retaining control of the archipelago until today. If there is a successful outcome for Mauritius, then the Republic of Cyprus and other former colonies will have a very significant legal weapon in their hands. The case at the ICJ is a legal test of whether colonial era deals struck by great powers and small states that later gain independence are legitimate, given the power imbalance. Cyprus participated in the proceedings of the above case through the Attorney General, Mr. Kostas Kliridis, and the eminent Cypriot advocate, Mr. Polivios Poliviou, who, addressing the components of the right to self-determination, stated that colonial powers, even today, are under a continuing obligation to give full effect to the principle of self-determination, and the matter is clear. Colonialism is a remnant of the past, and we should not preserve it but bring it to a speedy end. Summarizing the above, it seems that Great Britain in 1960 took advantage of its colonial might and retained the two bases under its control and jurisdiction to serve its strategic long-term interest, signing in exchange the Treaty of Guarantee to protect the sovereignty of Cyprus and to prevent its partition, and having failed totally to uphold its obligations, continues to enjoy the spoils of its colonial might without any reciprocal actions towards Cyprus. It's no secret that already the British government expressed its will to renounce its guarantor role in Cyprus, taking advantage of the will of the Cypriot people to have a solution of the Cyprus problem without guarantees and outside rights of intervention by any other countries. The Republic of Cyprus, in my opinion, should never accept the unilateral renouncement by Great Britain of its obligations and rights emanating from the Treaty of Establishment and Guarantee unless a permanent solution to the Cyprus problem is found and agreed by all parties involved. Great Britain was in the past and is today part of the Cyprus problem and should play a more active role in solving it, and it should not be allowed to escape from the negotiating table until it fulfills its obligations towards Cyprus as stipulated by the Treaty of Guarantee. To renounce unilaterally its guarantor rights and obligations and keep the two military bases is like adding insult to the 1960 wounds of the Cypriot people, who accepted the detachment of the two bases from its territory in 1960 in order to have them as a safeguard from the Turkish aggression. On the other hand, if they insist on renouncing their rights, then they should do so also in relation to the two military bases and hand control of them to the Republic of Cyprus, as they have no other legal or moral right to keep them. The two cases I mentioned above, especially the ICJ one in relation to Mauritius, if favorable, should be a guiding factor to their intentions as far as Cyprus. I hope that Great Britain will think about its involvement in Cyprus on a long-term basis and show the necessary will to solve the Cyprus problem in a way that keeps Cyprus an independent and sovereign country without interventions from any other foreign powers, because Great Britain needs Cyprus more than Cyprus needs Great Britain, especially after 2004. To end my speech tonight, I believe Cyprus and Great Britain share a lot of common values and long-term strategic interest. And I hope this time Great Britain fulfills its guarantor and constitutional obligations towards Cyprus, not only as an independent country, member of the United Nations, but as member of the Commonwealth and the European Union. Cypriot people sacrificed their long-term aspirations for enosis with mainland Greece in 1960 and are now facing the threat by Turkey to complete annexation and ethnic cleansing through the changing of the demographic character of Cyprus since they invaded and partitioned Cyprus in 1974. Great Britain is renowned all over the world as a country of due process and fairness. But that did not manifest insofar as Cyprus concerned. Instead, Great Britain is behaving like a modern Pontius Pilatus. If Britain wants to have long-term interest in Cyprus and the use of certain facilities on Cyprus territory, that should only be possible through the end of the invasion and partition of Cyprus by Turkey. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anna, for what was a very thorough analysis. We're now going to move on to our next speaker. He is Professor Niazi Kizil-Yurek of the University of Cyprus.
Well, today we are celebrating the very birth of Cyprus, a republic. He is maturing. He's not anymore a young person. He's aging, coming slowly towards 60 years old. And still we are in a very tragic situation. And we are getting also maybe even worse and worse by day. A divided island, ethnic nationalism, foreign invasion, etc., and unfinished symphony of negotiations. That's where we are, and we have to be, I think, like every individual, maturing. It means sometimes also to be also self-critical, to be aware about our faults and mistakes, to dare to look into the mirror. This is what maturing means, and I think we in Cyprus generally, we like, when we look at the Cyprus conflict, to blame someone else always, somehow, somewhere, okay? Don't worry, I'm going to speak about British responsibilities, but I'm going to extend the responsibilities on our shoulders too. And when I'm saying on our, I mean both Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots. Rethink about our past, and with courage to dare to look into the mirror. And since we are all here together, Greek and Turkish Cypriots, and to raise certain very important issues. What went wrong in Cyprus since the Republic of Cyprus has been established? Well, actually, I know that we know a lot about what went wrong, but if we have the courage to say and talk about them, I'm not sure. We created Turkish and Greek truths in interpreting the history, unfortunately, and we have been enslaved in these truths. I want to go beyond this, okay? And I will tell you certain things why I would go beyond this. Well, first of all, when the Republic of Cyprus came to the world, we couldn't find any political elite to embrace this Republic of Cyprus, either Greek Cypriots nor Turkish Cypriots. Galafkos Kouridis has a very good definition about Cypriot flag. He says, this is the best flag of the world because no one is ready to die for it. It means no one embraces the Republic of Cyprus. The fact that we didn't respect the Republic shows just two examples. The agreement of Zurich and London were signed in February 1959, and some months later, a ship called Deniz was shipping armament to Cyprus from Turkey. Or TMT was continuing educating its militants. At the very same dates, some men, like Yorgaitis, for example, they ran underground with their organization Wakritas, and they were also arming. So that two examples shows us very clearly that when the Republic came to the world, there was not political elites with desire and willpower to embrace the Republic of Cyprus. And it was an unwanted child. That is one of the reasons why we ended up in 1964 clashes, and I would insist that this is Cypriot-made clashes, because we were heading in violating the Constitutional Republic of Cyprus towards enosis and partition, although both were forbidden. Actually, guarantee agreement, which also partly is not just free guarantors who are committing themselves to the constitutional order, also the Republic of Cyprus has signed this agreement and was committed to preserve the constitutional order. Well, and actually some more things are in this guarantee agreement, some interesting details. Activities and propaganda towards enosis or Taksim were forbidden. If you had a good judge, actually, in 1960, between 60 and 63, most of the politicians wouldn't end up in the prison because we were talking every day about partition and enosis, despite of the constitution and despite of our commitment. So, Greek and Turkish Cypriots actually are the first who violated the Constitutional Republic of Cyprus in propaganding enosis and Taksim, although the agreements were signed. So let's go now a bit behind, a bit further in the past to see the British responsibilities. I mean, there is nothing much to talk about this. Colonialism by itself is a huge responsibility and unfairness imposed itself upon other populations. British colonial rule, yes, harmed a lot Cyprus. For example, in 1950s, the policy of divide and rule, recruiting or Turkish auxiliary policemen against EOKA members and fighters created an ethnic violence every day. And colonial masters were quite responsible for this. Just give you one example about this. The first death Turkish Cypriots during the campaign of EOKA was in 1956, 12 January in Paphos, was Abdullah Çavuş, killed by EOKA. But Abdullah Çavuş was not a kind of Turkish Cypriot. He was a British soldier. He was fighting in his capacity as a British policeman against EOKA members. But in the perception of Turkish Cypriots, Abdullah Çavuş was a Turkish Cypriot killed by EOKA. And this is when we started the first inter-communal strife and conflicts and demonstrations. And we arrived at the first division in Nicosia in 1956 because of this event, namely the Mason-Dixon line, which divided the Nicosia long before, some years before, Oak Green line. So, of course, there are a lot of responsibilities about British if you go into the history. But also by the establishment of the Republic of Cyprus, there is a huge responsibility because Britain did not leave Cyprus. They just kept, as we heard before, 2 sovereign bases and imposed upon Cyprus, which is quite unfair, and this is something which we will always challenge, and we have to challenge. But coming to 1964 events, intercommunal conflict, which it was a failure of the Republic of Cyprus, I wouldn't start blaming the British or anyone else than Cypriots themselves, Greek and Turkish Cypriots. And there is a huge evidence for this. For example, Turkish ambassador Emin Dirvana, he was fighting to keep the Republic alive, despite Rauf Denktaş's political partition. And he was in clash with Rauf Denktaş until he was in Ireland until 1962. A Turkish ambassador defends the Republic more than Rauf Denktaş. And so goes for Averov and Karamanlis government. Then Yorgacı and the others were planning to arrive at Enosis. Greek government was totally against it. And I give you just one example here. When Makarios decided to make the 13-point amendment, whereas in all Greek Cypriot books, yes, Arthur Clarke convinced him or manipulated him, etc. No, Arthur Clarke played a role, High Commissioner in Nicosia then. He played a role helping him to formulate the 13th points. But how on earth can an Arthur Clarke convince Makarios when the Greek government, especially the Greek foreign minister, Averov, in 1963, 19 April, sends a letter to Makarios and says, don't touch the constitution, please don't do it, because you're going to bring us to a brick at the war with Turkey, and Istanbulian Hellenism will pay the bill, don't do this. No, but some Cypriot guys, they want forward for Enosis and partition. Look at here, despite of Turkish and Greek governments' positioning, of course I have to add, Turkey and Greece, they were not democracies. Turkish and Greek governments, they were saying something else. But deep states in both countries, they were operating underneath for Enosis and partition. So here it lies a great responsibility on Cypriot shoulders. You cannot get rid of this by naming it Turkwan Darcia, Turkish revolt against state, or calling it Kanlı Noel, Greek massacres of Turkish Cypriots. This is far too shallow approaches and is actually not to take on the responsibility. Now, I go into real responsibility. What's happened after 64, when the clashes started? Well, here we have British and Americans, especially Americans, I would say, more than British, playing a role against the Republic of Cyprus. The scenario was very simple. They decided for the dissolvement of the independent Republic of Cyprus. They were, in name of protecting Western interests, decided and made plans that the Republic of Cyprus should cease to exist and should be disappearing. This is what brought us to the adjacent plan. In that, actually, Americans, more active than British, but both they were, of course, handling together, and I think that was a kind of insult upon the Republic of Cyprus, which didn't help for the reconciliation. Before we heard about Martin Packard's testimony, I must tell you here publicly that I invited Martin Packard in Cyprus in 1991, and I made a long interview with Packard on camera, which I haven't published yet. Now it's a good excuse to publish it. It's exactly Martin Packard was giving me a deep testimony that he was trying to help to reconciliation, but George Ball was saying to him, my son, you got it wrong. We are here to divide this island, not to unite it. And this is their Anglo-American responsibilities lies, especially in 1964, okay? But all these initiatives, they failed, Anglo-American initiatives, as the failure of the adjustment plan. Afterwards, for a while, we had no American or English involvement. We have Turkish-Greek secret dialogue between 65 to 66. But look at that now. What did we do in Cyprus during this period? Suddenly, a new slogan appeared. Adofia Enosis. Makarios lie. Makarios policy, supported by Aker also. Adofia Enosis. Pure Enosis. No concessions to Turks. Despite of a constitution, despite of a republic, not only Makarios was saying Adofia Enosis, but the Parliament of Republic of Cyprus unanimously in 1967 voted for the Enosis. All these are violations of the constitution of Cyprus, and these are our own mistakes. So that's why we have to take a deep look into 1960s, and we have to find the courage to go for this. And then we arrive at the coup d'etat and Turkish invasion. Here, of course, we have a great responsibility lying on the shoulders, rather than Kissinger, than British. I mean, in every book we read about Callahan's disagreement with Kissinger, who was really letting Turkey to invade Cyprus. And Callahan was trying very hard to convince otherwise, but he failed. So I wouldn't say that here responsibilities are same between British and Americans. Actually, these two men, Callahan and Kissinger, and how they dealt during this crisis is very important to look at again. You will find that Kissinger imposed himself upon British policy also in 1974. Now, after 74, before we go to 74, summary here is the Constitution of the Republic of Cyprus and the agreement, guarantee agreement, which is part of the Constitution, is violated by all guarantors, but not only, including the Republic of Cyprus. So this is very important to be aware of. Violated by Republic of Cyprus for asking for Enosis and struggling for Enosis, although Constitution was forbidding this, and of course by Greece infiltrating Greek army in Cyprus 1962 illegally, Turkish, of course, invading Cyprus, although Turkey, according to the guarantee agreement, had to take action to reconstruct the constitutional order, to restore the order. Turkey did quite the opposite, of course. Divided Cyprus, I agree, there is an ethnic cleansing happened there, and Cyprus is divided since then. So all this shows us that all factors, all actors, we are here quite responsible, Turkey, Cypriots, Greek Cypriots, Greece, Turkey, and British. But this is the past now. How can we go out of this impasse? What is to be expecting for the near future in Cyprus?
2 minutes.
I would tell you one shortcut. Ethnic conflict in the world can be solved in 3 ways. One is you create a unitary state, you have a dominant population and a minority. Second one is you do a confederation, you have 2 states which are cooperating among themselves. And the third option is a federal state, federalism, which keeps the communities together under one political roof. So if we go for a unitary state, it means that we're going to have a Greek Cypriot majority to rule Cyprus with a Turkish minority, which is historically proven already, which is not possible. We cannot go for this. It means tension. It means going to back 1960s. If we go for partition into states, it means the line over Authentas, which causes again so much tension and ethnic strife and conflict. So it remains in our hands. Federalism is a historical option. And we have to insist on federal Cyprus as the way out of historical mess. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next speaker now, Dr. Christos Kleridis, who's the head of the law department at Frederick University in Cyprus.
For coming here, thank you for the invitation. I have a little bit different interpretation of history, but I'm not going into it now because our subject is different. But let me say one thing. Although the Cypriots made mistakes, undoubtedly, I think they were the victim of policies of a divisionist nature, which policies were devised in foreign centers. Reference was made, of course, to the divide and rule policy of the United Kingdom in the 1950s. Dr. Vasili Mavru explained this tonight. There is abundant proof and evidence to support this view. But also there is abundant evidence to support the view that Turkey worked for Taksim since the 1950s with the well-known two documents of Nihat Erim, an advisor to Menderes, the prime minister at the time. In fact, what we are seeing today is an implementation of these policies of the 1950s of Nihat Erim, unfortunately. The United States also had their own policies, again encouraging the division of Cyprus. And I really have the feeling that if the Cypriots were left alone, they would not make all these mistakes that my friend Niazi told us about. So let's not throw the blame on the Cypriots alone. There were other workings and policies for the division of Cyprus which we live together, which we live today. Now, that by way of introduction. Of course, our main topic is not the history of Cyprus tonight, but to consider the responsibilities of the United Kingdom, especially under the Treaty of Guarantee, which was, as we have heard tonight, signed in 1960. Just to refresh your history, we had the Lancaster House agreements in February 1959, 19th, where the prime ministers, Macmillan, Karamanlis, Menderes, signed a memorandum in which memorandum various documents were annexed, amongst them the Treaty of Guarantee, with the guarantor powers being Turkey, Greece, and the United Kingdom government. In addition, the Treaty of Alliance between the Republic of Cyprus, Greece, and Turkey, and another important document which included the basic structure of the Constitution, 27 paragraphs, paragraph 21 of which provided for the Treaty of Guarantee, which was also given constitutional status by virtue of Article 181 of the Cyprus Constitution, which was later incorporated in another set of documents of July 1960, which included the Treaty of Establishment and the various annexes and appendices to it. This by way of introduction. Now, we have heard the main provisions of the Treaty of Guarantee. Basically, under Article 2 of the Treaty of Guarantee, the United Kingdom, Greece and Turkey recognize and guarantee the independence, territorial integrity, and security of the Republic of Cyprus, and also the provisions of the basic articles of its constitutions. They likewise undertake, this is very important, to prohibit, as far as lies within their power, all activity having the object of promoting directly or indirectly either the union of the Republic of Cyprus with any other state or the partition of the island. Today we have no union, we have a partition of Cyprus. Article 3 provides what will happen in case there was a breach of the Treaty of Guarantee, and it provides in very simple language the United Kingdom, Turkey, and Greece undertake to consult at first stage, together with a view to making representations or taking the necessary steps to ensure observance of those provisions. Insofar as common or concerted action may prove impossible, the treaty goes on, each of the three guaranteeing powers reserves the right to take action with the sole aim of re-establishing the state of affairs established by the present treaty. I will come back into this with the suggested interpretation. Now, the question arises, what are the responsibilities of the United Kingdom under this Treaty of Guarantee? And I have a number of points to make. The first point, of course, is that the United Kingdom has guaranteed the territorial integrity and security of the Republic of Cyprus. This obligation is a continuing obligation and continues this very day under Article 60 of the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties. The United Kingdom government is further obliged to cooperate in the common defense of Cyprus under Article 3 of the Treaty of Establishment with the Republic of Cyprus. Now, this provision of the Treaty of Guarantee continues to be violated by the United Kingdom government. The second point is that the United Kingdom government guarantees and continues to do so the state of affairs created by the basic articles of the Constitution. These basic articles were 27 paragraphs attached, as I have said, to the Lancaster agreements, and they were agreed in Zurich earlier in February 1959. And they are these articles that cannot be amended unless, of course, all powers involved can accept this, and this has constitutional force under Article 182 of the Constitution. Now, the United Kingdom has guaranteed these basic articles. Amongst them is, of course, a Greek president and a Turkish vice president. Veto confined only to through items, the recognition, of course, of the Greek and Cypriot community, the unitary state of the Republic of Cyprus, and in general, the structure of the Republic of Cyprus, the basic structure of the Republic of Cyprus as it is today. Now, of course, we know that the United Kingdom government, under this guarantee provisions, failed to take action or effective steps against Turkey, and in general to ensure the re-establishment of the state of affairs it has guaranteed. The third point is, again, under Article 2 of the UK Treaty of Guarantee, to prohibit, as far as lies within its power, all activity having the object of promoting directly or indirectly the partition of the island. Hence, the United Kingdom government is obliged not to allow the promotion of any partitionist solution of the Cyprus problem. The partition by a two-state solution in Cyprus, or even a bizonal bicommunal federation based in essence on such a notion, must be prohibited by the United Kingdom government. The promotion, indeed, of any solution to the Cyprus problem under any name or umbrella, which in essence is partitionist, if not directly, indirectly, is banned by the Treaty of Guarantee. And the United Kingdom is obliged to prohibit the promotion of such a solution. Under the Treaty of Guarantee, the United Kingdom government cannot shut its eyes to the promotions of plans for a partitionist nature. The creation, for example, of two constituent states under a confederation umbrella is nothing more than a cover-up of a separatist plan, and the United Kingdom should not allow it. under its treaty obligations. The fourth point is that, again, under Article 2, the United Kingdom government undertook and guaranteed to ensure the independence of Cyprus. This necessarily implies that the Republic of Cyprus cannot be considered as defunct, like Turkey says today. It further implies that the United Kingdom government will never promote any solution to the Cyprus problem which either necessitates or is based on a notion that the Republic of Cyprus will cease to exist even for a second, or that a new state of affairs will emerge out of the so-called virgin birth. And I remind you of the plan, the Annan Plan, and the Lord Honey proposals, a British lord who promoted exactly a separatist state of affairs which Britain itself guaranteed that it would not take place, and continues to guarantee that this will not take place. And of course referring to the Annan Plan and its basic structure. Fifth, the continuous threats against the Republic of Cyprus by Turkey and its illegal activity in the exclusive economic zone of Cyprus. This constitutes a threat to the security of the Republic of Cyprus. And the United Kingdom government has a duty under the Treaty of Guarantee not to allow these activities to take place and take all necessary measures to prevent it. Mere statements such as we recognize the right of the Republic of Cyprus to exploit its exclusive economic zone are not enough. Positive steps have to be taken in the European Union context, in the United Nations context, in the Security Council, etc. I think, again, here the United Kingdom government has failed and continues to fail in its obligation. Six, since the government guaranteed a state of affairs created by the 1960 agreements, this means that it should not promote under any umbrella, whether it is by zonal, by communal federation, or whatever, call it what you like, any solution that would move away from what has been agreed in 1960. For example, rotating presidency. This is something which is not permissible under the state of affairs which the British government guaranteed. Or veto across the whole board, and not confined only to matters of foreign policy, security, and defense, which are the basic vetoes guaranteed under the 1960 Constitution, or the imposition of taxation, as far as the legislature is concerned. Or, of course, I have said this already, any solution that would mean that the Republic of Cyprus, for which we celebrate today, is defunct. How can the United Kingdom, as a guarantor power, continue to support today strongly Turkey's accession to the European Union, when Turkey says that the Republic of Cyprus, which Britain has guaranteed, is defunct and fails to recognize the Republic of Cyprus explicitly? Now, I will say a few things about the Treaty of Guarantee, because a lot has been said that it is illegal, it is invalid, and so on and so forth. The Treaty of Guarantee is not invalid, it's valid. What we have to do is to interpret the provision that action will be taken in case that no concerted action is taken by the three guarantors as meaning that lawful steps will be taken in accordance with the international law and the Charter of the United Nations. This would mean, for example, that there should be a calling of the Security Council, a decision of the Security Council, etc., etc. Now, Turkey invoked the Treaty of Guarantee, Article 3, for the invasion of Cyprus. But we very well know that the intention of Turkey was not to reinstate the affairs guaranteed under the 1960 Constitution. We have seen the creation of a TRMC, we have seen settlement of Cyprus by illegal settlers, and express declarations by the Turkish government that the Cyprus Republic does not exist, is defunct. Therefore, it is absolutely essential, as far as I am concerned, that the Cypriot community here in London take all steps towards their MPs, towards people influential in the British government, to put across the point that you have responsibilities, legal responsibilities under the Treaty of Guarantee, which you are ignoring and you are failing to carry through. Thank you very much.
We're now going to move to our final speaker for the evening, Sinead Levent, who is the editor of Africa newspaper. Now, because Sinead doesn't speak English, his son has accompanied him to London and is going to translate, so therefore Sinead has more than 15 minutes to speak.
Arkadaşlar, herhalde yoruldunuz değil mi?
Friends, you seem to be tired.
Onun için ben size bir fıkra anlatmakla başlayacağım konuşmama.
I'll start with an anecdote.
Memleketin birinde bir kral varmış.
There was a king in one of the countries.
Bir gün dünya tarihini, insanlık tarihini öğrenmek istemiş, hepsini.
One day he wanted to learn the world history.
Ve bunun için bütün bilim adamlarını çağırmış.
And he called all his advisors and scientists to come up with the world history for him.
Onlara demiş ki, ben dünya tarihini öğrenmek istiyorum. Gidin yazın ve getirin bana.
I would like to learn the world history. Go write for me and bring it back to me.
Bilim adamları gitmişler. 40 yıl çalışmışlar. Ve 40 kitap hazırlayarak 40 deveye yüklemişler ve getirmişler.
Scientists have gone, worked on it for 40 years, wrote 40 books on it and brought it back to the king.
Kral biraz yaşlanmış. Bakmış 40 tane kitap. Demiş onlara, benim vaktim mi var şimdi bunları okumaya?
The king basically became older and he looked at the 40 books and said, do I have the time to read this?
Gidin biraz kısaldın da öyle getirin.
And he told them, go and shorten it a bit and come back.
Gitmişler onlar, 10 yıl daha çalışmışlar, 10 kalın kitap hazırlamışlar, 10 deveye yüklemişler ve getirmişler.
They went, they worked on it for another 10 years, they shortened it to 10 books, 10 thick books, and brought it back to the king after 10 years.
Kral biraz daha yaşlanmış tabii, dönüp bakmış, demiş ki benim vaktim mi var şimdi bunları okumaya, gidin biraz daha kısaldın.
The king obviously became a bit more older after 10 years, looked at the 10 books and said again, do I have the time to read this?
Gitmişler tekrar, bir 10 yıl daha çalışmışlar, kalın bir kitaba endirmişler, bir deveye yüklemişler ve getirmişler.
They went back again, worked another 10 years on it, and brought one thick book for the king.
Demişler, efendim, bu kadar kısaltabildik, daha çok kısalmaz.
Sir, they said, this is the most we can shorten it after 10 years when they came back with one thick book. This is basically what we can summarize the world history into.
Kral biraz daha yaşlanmış ve hasta yatıyormuş.
Obviously, the king is now much older and is lying ill in his bed.
Şöyle bir dönüp bakmış o kitaba, demiş, benim vaktim mi var şimdi bunu okumaya?
He turned and looked at the book again and said, do I have the time to read this?
O zaman Bilim adamlarından bir tanesi eğilmiş ve kralın kulağına şöyle fısıldamış. Efendim, dünya tarihini mi öğrenmek istiyorsunuz?
One of his advisors leaned over to his ears and asked him, "So, do you want to learn the world history?"
Ben sana söyleyeyim.
I'll tell you then, he told him.
Doğdular, çektiler, öldüler.
They were born, they struggled, and they died.
Bu fıkrayı Mihail Gorbaçov Kremlin'den ayrılırken, oradan son eşyalarını toplarken kendisiyle yabancı bir muhabir söyleşi yapıyordu ve ona insanlık hakkında fikrini sorduydu Gorbaçov'a.
So this anecdote came out when Mikhail Gorbachev was leaving Kremlin. He was gathering his property basically and leaving. And one of the foreign journalists asked him about what his thoughts were on humanity, and this is the response he gave to them.
Ben Moskova'daydım ve televizyondan izledim.
And he watched this over in the TV in Moscow.
Ve Gorbaçov da ona, o muhabire işte bu fıkrayı anlatmış o zaman.
And this is what Gorbachev had
Anlattı.
told the journalist that asked this question.
Hepimiz burada Kıbrıs tarihini mi öğrenmek istiyoruz? Hepimiz istiyoruz değil mi?
We all want to learn the Cyprus history here, I suppose. That's why we are here.
Geldiler, parçaladılar, böldüler.
They came, they tore apart, and they divided.
Aslında hepimiz artık Kıbrıs'la ilgili bütün gerçekleri biliyoruz. Bana göre gizli artık hiçbir şey kalmamıştır.
I believe we all know now all of the history, all of the secrets in Cyprus. I don't think there is anything left that is a secret.
Ve tabii ki asıl konuşmamız gereken bugün ne halde olduğumuzdur. Bugün Kıbrıs ne halde ve biz ne haldeyiz?
What we have to really talk about is the present and what we are in and the present situation in Cyprus.
Şu anda Akdeniz savaş gemileriyle doluyken burada tarihten çok da bahsetmek gelmez içimden.
Now when the Mediterranean is full of warships, I don't really feel like talking about the history.
Kıbrıs Türk ve Rum kavgası değil.
Cyprus is not about the conflict between the Turks and the Greeks.
Bir Orta Doğu sorunudur.
It's a Middle East problem.
Eğer burada benzin, neft kuyularının dibinde olmasa bugüne kadar başına gelenler gelmezdi.
If it wasn't in the middle of the Middle East where all the petrol is, nothing in what happened in the history they wouldn't have had that.
Bu Orta Doğu çok garip bir yer.
This Middle East is a very strange place.
Bütün peygamberler de oradan çıktı, bütün petrol da oradan çıktı.
All prophets came out from there and all the petrol is there.
Ama dünyanın en bedbaht bölgesidir.
However, it's the worst place in the world.
40 mil uzağımızda Türkiye,
40 miles apart, we have Turkey.
geldi, adayı işgal etti, öldürdü, astı, kesti, toprağını insanların zapt etti.
They came, they invaded, they killed people, they tore people apart from their land.
44 yıldır Kıbrıs Türkiye'nin işgali altındadır.
For 44 years, Turkey is invading Cyprus.
Ama bunun için yalnız Türkiye'yi suçlamak gerekmez.
But we shouldn't be only putting the fault on Turkey.
Arkadaşlarım da zaten burada bahsettiler. Anna da bahsetti, Niyazi de bahsetti, Christos'tan. Arkasında Amerika var, Birleşik Krallık var.
Like my friend stated here, there is United States and United Kingdom behind this.
George Paul'un Martin Packard'a söylediği tam bir örnektir buna.
What George Paul said to Michael Packard is an example to this.
3 garantör var.
There are 3 guarantors.
Üçü de suçlu ve üçünün de yargılanması gerekir.
They all have to be, all 3 of them have their faults, all 3 guarantors, and they have to be put on court for this.
Bu garantörlerden biri faşist darbe yaptı, Cumhurbaşkanlığı devirdi.
One of these guarantors had a coup and on a democratically elected president.
O bir garantör geldi, işgal etti, askeriyle çıktı buraya.
The other guarantor came and invaded the island with its army.
Birleşik Krallık da bütün bunları zevkle seyretti.
And the United Kingdom watched this with pleasure.
Ve hala garantör mü isteriz?
And do we still want a guarantor?
Siz evinize girip evinizi soyan hırsızı kapınızın önüne güvenlik görevlisi diye alır mısınız?
If somebody robbed your house, would you take that person and put it as your security?
Sizi öldürmeye gelen bir adamı evinize sizi öldürmeye gelen onu kapınızın önüne koruma diye, güvenlik görevlisi diye koyar mısınız?
The same if somebody came to kill you, and would you put them as a security again to protect you?
Garantörlük. Ben garantör istemiyorum. Buna karşıyım. Kesinlikle garantörlük sistemi ortadan kaldırılmalıdır ve Kıbrıslı Türklerin de böyle bir güvenlik sorunu yoktur.
I don't want a guarantor. Definitely, no guarantors there should be, and I don't think the Turkish Cypriots have a security issue to want a guarantor.
Kaldı ki bugünkü dünyada bir ülkenin o bir ülkeye askerini çıkarması için onun garantörü olması da gerekmez.
In the current world that we are living in, for one country to intervene to another country militarily, you don't really need to be a guarantor.
Türkiye, Suriye'nin garantörü değil.
Turkey is not a guarantor of Syria,
Ama gitti Afrin'i işgal etti.
but they went and occupied Afrin.
Amerika Birleşik Devletleri, Irak'ın ve Afganistan'ın garantörü değil. Ama gitti oraya onları işgal etti.
The United States is not a guarantor of Iraq or Afghanistan, but they went and occupied it.
Suudi Arabistan Yemen'e müdahale ediyor. Yemen'in garantörü mü Suudi Arabistan?
And is Saudi Arabia the guarantor of Yemen? They went and intervened there as well.
Eğer Türkiye Kıbrıs'ta garantör olmakta ısrar etmekteyse bunun nedeni şudur.
And if Turkey is insisting to be a guarantor in Cyprus, the reason is
Orada sadece kendi çıkarlarını korumak, Türkiye'nin çıkarlarını.
because they only care about Turkey's interests, their own interests in the
Kıbrıslı
island.
Türklerin haklarını değil,
They don't care about the interests of Turkish Cypriots in the island, only their own interests.
zaten bunu çeşitli zamanlarda Türkiye'nin politikacıları da çok açık bir biçimde söylemiştir. Demişlerdir ki Kıbrıs'ta bir tek Kıbrıslı Türk kalmasa bile biz orada olacağız.
And in the past, certain politicians have stated that this very clearly. Even if there were no Turkish Cypriots in the island, we would have still intervened militarily in Cyprus.
Benim için dönüşümlü başkanlığın da hiçbir önemi yoktur.
For me, having presidency, rotating the presidency is not important either.
Çünkü Kıbrıslı Rum da Kıbrıslıdır, Kıbrıslı Türk de Kıbrıslıdır.
Because a Greek Cypriot is a Cypriot and the Turkish Cypriot is also a Cypriot.
Yani biz birbirimize şunu söyleyebiliriz. Sen Rum, ben Türk Ama ikimiz de Kıbrıslıyız.
What we can say to each other is, you are Greek, you are Turkish, but more
I am Turk, you are Greek.
you, you are Turk, I am Greek, but we are Cypriots. Sorry.
Bana göre tabii ki bu müzakerelerde asıl adım atması gereken taraf Türk tarafıdır.
To me, in these negotiations that we are having, the one that should be taking the initiative should be Turkey, should be trying to.
Bu masada hakkından fazlasını istememelidir.
They should not want more than they deserve, and they shouldn't be asking for this.
Toprak iadesini, mallarını aldığı insanlara toprak iadesini yapmalıdır.
They should be giving the land back to those people that they took it from.
Düşünün siz. Düşünün siz. Maraş 44 yıldır kapalıdır ve onu göremiyoruz. Maraş.
Think about it. Varosha is closed for 44 years and we can't see it.
Konuşacak yüzümüz mü kaldı bizim?
Do we have the face to talk?
Ve Kıbrıs'ta cinayet işleyenler, toplu katliamları yapanlar veya diğer cinayetleri, siyasal cinayetleri işleyenler bugüne kadar ellerini kollarını sallayarak aramızda dolaşmaktadırlar ve onları da sorgulayamıyoruz, onları da cezalandıramıyoruz.
The murderers and the people that did the mass massacres are walking among us and we are not punishing them.
Ve kayıplarımız
Our lost ones.
hala daha onları toprağın altında arıyoruz.
We are still looking for them under the ground.
Yarısını bile bulmadık daha.
We didn't even find half of them.
Ve üstelik onların nasıl öldürüldüklerini de bize söylemiyorlar.
They don't even tell us how they were killed.
Geçmişi unutalım, yalnız geleceğe bakalım diyorlar.
They say forget the past, let's look at the future.
Hayır. Hayır, geçmişi unutmadan geleceğe bakacağız.
No, definitely not. We have to look at the past to be able to look at the future.
Arabalarda bir dikiz aynası vardır.
In cars you have a mirror
Ve ona da bakmak lazım.
and you have to look at that as well.
Ama geçmişi birbirimize daha çok düşman olmak için hatırlamayacağız. Sadece yüzleşmek için.
And we should not be looking at the history to become more enemies, but we should look at it to basically understand each other better.
Aslında çok daha fazla konuşmak mümkün ama gerekmiyor. Bizim hayatımız belirli sözlerin üstünde dönüyor. Belirli sözler vardır. Onlardan başka söz kullanmıyoruz.
There are a lot of things to talk about, but our life is evolved around a few words.
Enosis, Taksim, çözüm,
Enosis, Taksim, separation, solution,
çözüm, barış,
peace,
garanti,
guarantees,
plan,
plans,
denktaş,
denktaş,
makaryoz.
Macario.
Söyleye söyleye bunları delirecek Kıbrıs halkı.
The more and more they say it, they will become crazy.
Ben yüzlerce yazı yazdım bu konuda.
I wrote hundreds of articles about this.
Hiçbir şey değişmiyor. Sadece daha kötüye gidiyor.
Nothing is changing. Everything is getting worse.
Söz bitti. Bir şeyler yapmak lazım.
Saying and wording this is over. We should do something about it.
Toplanıp böyle konferanslar yapmak güzel. Ama daha iyiye gitmiyor hiçbir şey. Bir şeyler yapmak lazım.
It's nice gathering together and talking about this and having these conferences, but nothing's really happening. We should do something about it.
Ben Kıbrıs'ta bu tip konferanslara artık ilgi gösterildiğini görmüyorum. Bakın burada ne kadar kalabalığız bu akşam.
In Cyprus, I don't see much of an interest to such conferences, but here I can see that there is still a lot of people attending it.
Güzel bir şey bu.
This is a good thing.
Ama içimde her zaman bir korku olur böyle toplantılarda.
But in these kind of conferences, I always worry about something.
Herkesin söylenenlerden usanacağını ve kalkıp kaçacağını düşünürüm.
I'm always worried that people will get fed up from what is being said and they will just leave.
Onun için ben daha fazla başınızı ağrıtmayayım. Teşekkür ederim beni dinlediğiniz için.
And I don't want to give more headache, so these are my final words. So thank you. Yeah, so I don't want to give further headache to you guys. So these are my final words. So thank you. Yeah.
Καλωσορίζουμε την Άννα Θεολόγου στο Hellenic TV. Ευχαριστούμε που είσαι μαζί μας. Λοιπόν, είμαστε εδώ για το Κυπριακό κυρίως. Τώρα φτάνουμε πιο κοντά, οπότε και ακούγεται τέλος πάντων. Έχουν ξαναρχίσει συνομιλίες στη Νέα Νιόρκη για το Κυπριακό. Πώς το βλέπεις εσύ, Άννα μου, ότι φτάνουμε σε μια λύση?
Κοιτάξτε, μετά το τελευταίο ναυάγιο στο Κυπριακό, ο κόσμος δείχνει πιο απογοητευμένος σχετικά με τις εξελίξεις στο Κυπριακό. Θέλω να πιστεύω ότι εάν υπάρξουν νέες συζητήσεις για το Κυπριακό, ότι όντως θα επιφέρουν τα επιθυμητά αποτελέσματα και δεν θα είναι ξανά μια τρύπα στο νερό, αφού η Τουρκία θα συνεχίσει την αδιάλαχτη στάση της και τις θέσεις που έχει στο Κυπριακό. Ας ελπίσουμε ότι αν όντως ξεκινήσει μια διαδικασία διαπραγματεύσεων, θα φέρει κάποιον αποτέλεσμα. Όμως θέλω να μην χάνουμε τις ελπίδες μας, διότι βλέπουμε μια απογοήτευση στον κόσμο και τούτη η απογοήτευση δεν βοηθά περαιτέρω. Όσο περνούν τα χρόνια, τόσο μεγαλύτερο και τόσο πιο πολύ διωγγώνεται το πρόβλημα και δημιουργείται τελεσμένα που στο τέλος της ημέρας είναι δύσκολο να αλλάξουν. Παγιώνονται καταστάσεις και δύσκολο να φέρουν αλλαγές.
Ναι, συμφωνώ. Ήθελα να σε ρωτήσω επίσης, μπορούμε να ελπίζουμε στη βοήθεια των μεγάλων δυνάμεων?
Νομίζω, εάν λάβουμε τις απαραίτητες πολιτικές αποφάσεις ως προς το ποιοι μπορεί να είναι οι σύμμαχοι μας σε αυτό το κομμάτι, πιστεύω ότι μπορούμε να πάρουμε εύνοια από τις νέες δυνάμεις, από τις μεγάλες δυνάμεις. Μην ξεχνάτε ότι η Κύπρος παίζει και έπαιξε μεγάλο ρόλο στη διεθνή πολιτική σκηνή για την θέση της. Γιατί η θέση της είναι τέτοια ζωτική σημασία στην ευρύτερη περιοχή που είναι καθοριστικός και σταθερός παράγοντας στην ευρύτερη περιοχή της Μεσογείου, πράγμα το οποίο πιστεύω ότι οι μεγάλες δυνάμεις το βλέπουν πάρα πολύ θετικά ως προς την εξυπηρέτηση και των δικών τους συμφέροντα, αλλά παράλληλα να μπορούμε και εμείς οι ίδιοι να εξυπηρετήσουμε τα δικά μας συμφέροντα και τα συμφέροντα της Κυπριακής Δημοκρατίας ως προς τη λύση του κυπριακού προβλήματος. Θεωρώ ότι δεν πρέπει να βγαίνει από την εξίσωση η συμμετοχή μεγάλων δυνάμεων, φτάνει να εξυπηρετά την Κυπριακή Δημοκρατία.
Ναι, μου ευχαριστώ που είσαι μαζί μας και είναι ευχάριστο να βλέπω γυναίκες δυναμικές, νέες στην πολιτική. Καλή συνέχεια, καλή δύναμη. Καλώς ορίσατε, κύριε Κληρίδη, στο Hellenic TV. Ήθελα να σας ρωτήσω, τώρα στη Νέα Νιόρκη ανακοινώνεται ότι αρχίζει ξανά κύκλος συνομιλιών. Θεωρείτε ότι φτάνουμε κοντά σε μια λύση?
Δεν νομίζω, διότι δεν έχω διαπιστώσει μέχρι στιγμής οποιαδήποτε αλλαγή στην τουρκική στάση. Ιδιαίτερα για το θέμα των εγγυήσεων και παραμονής των τουρκικών στρατευμάτων στην Κύπρο. Όχι μόνο δεν υπήρξε στάση, αλλά θα έλεγα υπήρξε σκλήρινση με τον κύριο Ερντογάν να απειλεί ότι θα φέρει επιπρόσθετα στρατεύματα στην Κύπρο και ότι να μας υπενθυμίζει ότι η Κύπρος είναι πολύ κοντά και ανά πάσα στιγμή μπορεί να κάνει την οποιαδήποτε επέμβαση. Και από την άλλη βλέπω και την τουρκοκυπριακή ηγεσία, η οποία επιμένει σε μια εντελώς πλέον διαφορετική βάση, όπως λέει, του διαλόγου, εκτός του πλαισίου του Οργανισμού Ηνωμένων Εθνών, και προφανώς αφήνοντας να νοηθεί ότι θα διεκδικήσει την νομιμοποίηση του ψευδοκράτους, δηλαδή την λεγόμενη λύση 2 κρατών. Και είναι αυτό ακριβώς που συζητήσαμε και απόψε, ότι με βάση τη συνθήκη εγγύησης η διχοτόμηση, δηλαδή η δημιουργία 2 ξεχωριστών κρατών στην Κύπρο, απαγορεύεται ρητά από τη συνθήκη εγγύησης του 1960, την οποία υπέγραψε και το Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο. Και το Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο έχει καθήκον να λάβει όλα τα απαραίτητα μέτρα για να αποφύγει αυτήν την προτινόμενη λύση, να την απορρίψει και δημόσια και κατηδίας στις συνομιλίες, να μην επιτρέψει καν την κατάθεση της, αλλά επιπρόσθετα να συνεργαστεί μαζί με την άλλη συνεγγύτρια δύναμη, την Ελλάδα, και στο πλαίσιο του Οργανισμού Ηνωμένων Εθνών και στο πλαίσιο της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης, εφόσον και ενώσο το Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο παραμένει μέλος της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης, ούτως ώστε να εμποδιστεί η Τουρκία από το να ακολουθεί αυτήν την διολίσθηση προς τα χειρότερα για το Κυπριακό. Ιδιαίτερα, θα έλεγα, στο θέμα που η Τουρκία επιτακτικά θέτει, ότι δηλαδή η Κυπριακή Δημοκρατία είναι εκλειπούσα, defunct, αυτό έρχεται 100% σε αντίθεση με τις υποχρεώσεις που ανέλαβε η Τουρκία, αλλά και το Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο σαν συνεγγύτρια δύναμη. Αυτόν είναι που ακριβώς πρέπει η αγγλική κυβέρνηση να αντιληφθεί, ότι δεν μπορεί να κρύβεται πίσω από τις υποχρεώσεις της, τις οποίες όμως οφείλω να πω ότι και η Κυπριακή Δημοκρατία αλλά και η ελληνική κυβέρνηση πρέπει με κάθε ευκαιρία να θέτουν στο Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο.
Σαν Κυπριακή Δημοκρατία το έχουμε θέσει επιτάπητος αυτό?
Νομίζω δεν έχει τεθεί επιτακτικά και είναι καιρός, και χαίρομαι γιατί ακριβώς αυτή η εκδήλωση έθεσε το θέμα αυτόν επιτακτικά να ακουστεί και να μπορέσει και ο Κύπριος, ο οποίος ψηφίζει στην Αγγλία, να το μεταφέρει στον δικό του είτε υποψήφιον είτε βουλευτή της περιφέρειας του, ούτως ώστε να αγγίξει και τα αυτιά της αγγλικής κυβέρνησης.
Ναι, είναι σημαντικό να υπάρχει γνώση για το τι συμβαίνει πραγματικά.
Πολύ σημαντικό.
Για να μπορείς να ψηφίσεις αυτό
Πολύ
που
σημαντικό,
θεωρείς.
και επίσης θεωρώ ότι σημαντική η εκδήλωση απόψε, πέραν από το ότι έθεσε το θέμα των αγγλικών υποχρεώσεων στην Κύπρο, δυνάμει της συνθήκης εγγύησης, ότι υπήρχε και συμμετοχή τουρκοκυπρία. Τόσο στο πάνελ, όσο και στο ακροατήριο.
Είναι σημαντικό να είμαστε δύο κοινότητες, εφόσον αφορά και τις δύο κοινότητες. Είπατε πριν για τις μεγάλες δυνάμεις ότι οφείλουν να αναλάβουν τις υποχρεώσεις τους. Άρα να προσδοκούμε σε μια βοήθεια των μεγάλων δυνάμεων.
Για να πάρεις βοήθεια από οποιαδήποτε χώρα πρέπει να το διεκδικήσεις. Εάν εμείς ήδη, οι δικές μας κυβερνήσεις, Ελλάδα-Κύπρος, δεν επιμένουν στην εφαρμογή των υποχρεώσεων των Άγγλων, τις οποίες ανέλαβαν και υφίστανται, να μην περιμένουμε οποιαδήποτε θετική εξέλιξη. Άρα εμείς πρώτα να θέσουμε το θέμα αυτό επιτακτικά.
Άρα η Κυπριακή Δημοκρατία έχει μεγάλη ευθύνη.
Έχει ευθύνη να το θέσει στην αγγλική κυβέρνηση. Όταν δηλαδή έρχεται ο πρόεδρος μας στην Αγγλία και βλέπει τον εκάστοτε πρωθυπουργό, οφείλει αυτό το θέμα να το θέτει επιτακτικά.
Ευχαριστώ κύριε Κλειδί που ήσασταν μαζί μας. Καλή συνέχεια, καλή δύναμη. Καλωσορίζω τον κύριο Βασίλη Μαύρο, τον διοργανωτή της σημερινής εκδήλωσης. Γεια σας. Ήταν εξαιρετική η εκδήλωση.
Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ το Hellenic TV που ήρθε να καλύψει και αυτήν την εκδήλωση. Εσείς ήμασταν υπόχρεοι. Ναι, πραγματικά ήταν μια εξαιρετική εκδήλωση. Η αίθουσα ήταν ασφιχτικά γεμάτη. Εκτιμούμε όλη την υποστήριξη που μας δίνει η παροικία του Ηνωμένου Βασιλείου και από πλευράς μας εμείς κάνουμε ό,τι μπορούμε για να προωθήσουμε τις θέσεις της Κύπρου μας. Πρέπει να σας πω ότι αυτή η εκδήλωση είναι έτσι ιστορική εκδήλωση στην παροικία, διότι δεν γίνονται πολλές τέτοιες εκδηλώσεις όπου έχουν την ευκαιρία καλεσμένοι από την Κύπρο να έρθουν να μιλήσουν για το θέμα μας. Είμαστε πολύ τυχεροί που είχαμε μαζί μας τον Σενέρ Λεβέντ, τον Ιαζίν, τον καθηγητή, τον προφέσορ, τον Χρήστον τον Κληρίδη και την Άννα την θεολόγου, την βουλευτή. Μιλήσαμε για το ρόλο της Αγγλίας και τι περιμένουμε την Αγγλία να κάνει σαν καραντόρ δύναμη που είναι στις υπογραφές που έχει βάλει για την Κύπρο. Και αναλύσαμε την ημέρα της ανεξαρτησίας, ετοιμήσαμε μάλλον την ημέρα της ανεξαρτησίας της Κύπρου με τον τρόπο που έπρεπε να την τιμήσουμε. Έτσι ξανά ευχαριστώ πάλι τον κόσμο, εμείς θα πολεμούμε συνεχώς, θα ετοιμάζουμε εκδηλώσεις μέχρι το τέλος, μέχρι να πείσουμε την αγγλική κυβέρνηση, τέλος πάντων ειδικά πάω πίσω στο θέμα, ότι πρέπει κάτι να κάνουν σαν καραντόρς της Κυπριακής Ανεξαρτησίας. Έβαλαν τις υπογραφές τους κάτω το 1960 και δυστυχώς τίποτα δεν έκαναν. Εμείς πιστεύουμε στο Εργατικό Κόμμα, πιστεύουμε σε μια κυβέρνηση του Εργατικού Κόμματος στο μέλλον, με τον αρχηγό τον Τζέρεμι Κόρμπιν, όπως προσπαθήσουν, και είμαι βέβαιος γι' αυτόν, το είπε ο Τζέρεμι Κόρμπιν, ότι θα τιμήσει τις υπογραφές που έχει βάλει το 1960 η Αγγλία.
Άρα υπάρχει πρόσφορον έδαφος, όπως
υπάρχει πολύ πρόσφορον έδαφος, ναι, και ελπίζουμε αυτό να γίνει στο επόμενο μέλλον.
Όταν έχουμε μαχητές όπως εσάς, είμαι σίγουρη ότι τουλάχιστον επηρεάζει τις καταστάσεις.
Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ, δεν είμαστε μαχητές, απλώς κάνουμε το καθήκον μας και καλούμε και άλλον κόσμο να κάνει και αυτό το καθήκον του και τουλάχιστον η παροικία να έρχεται να μας υποστηρίζει.
Θα έχουμε άλλες εκδηλώσεις σύντομα.
23 του Οκτώβρη, να το σημειώσετε, έχουμε εκδήλωση στη Βουλή, το Pharmaceutical Association, με το APPC για την Κύπρο. Ωραία. Έτσι καλούμε πάλι όλη την παροικία να δώσει το παρόν της στην Βουλή των Κοινοτήτων στις 23 του Οκτώβρη. Νομίζω είναι η ώρα 7 το απόγευμα, αν δεν κάνω λάθος.
Ωραία, άρα θα σας δούμε στις 23 του Οκτώβρη. Ευχαριστώ κύριε Μαύρο πάρα πολύ. Καλή συνέχεια. Γεια σας. Welcome, Mr. Senelevent, to our Hellenic TV here in London. And I would like to ask you your opinion about bi-economical, bi-zonal solution.
Bi-communal ve bi-zonal çözüm için ne düşünüyorsun?
Benim için sınırsız birleşik bütün bir Kıbrıs'tır. En ideali, en iyisi.
For me, the only ideal solution is to have a Cyprus without boundaries as a whole, as one.
İki bölgeli Kıbrıs demek aynı zamanda bir bakıma Taksim demektir. İki bölgeli.
Having two separate like places in Cyprus, it means separation. Is Taksim in Turkish. So
Ben daha önceki zamanlarda olduğu gibi Kıbrıslı Türklerle Kıbrıslı Rumların birlikte aynı mahallelerde, aynı köylerde yaşamasını isterim.
for me, Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots should be living together in the same neighborhoods, in the same areas, no boundaries. So they should be living together, not in two separate areas, because that's separation.
İki bölgeli olursa arada gene bir sınır olacak ve orada bir asker bekleyecek.
If there's going to be two areas, there's always going to be a border, some kind of border, and there's always going to be a military, a soldier waiting there.
Bu çok kötü. Yani öyle olması iki bölgelilik kötü.
So having two separate areas, two bi-communal, bi-zonal areas is not ideal.
Onun için birleşik bir Kıbrıs değil de bitişik bir Kıbrıs olmalı.
So we have to be as a Cyprus as a whole, like all together without boundaries.
How can we achieve that practically?
Pratikte nasıl onu başarabiliriz?
Ge- Geçmişten biraz daha ders alır ve adam olursak onu başarmamamız için hiçbir neden yoktur.
If we look at the past and take out lessons from the past, but really take out lessons from the past, there's we can achieve it. But we really have to look at our past before going into the future and take actual lessons from the past.
Şövenizm ve ırkçılığı, milliyetçiliği yok edecek içimizde.
We should take out racism, nationalism out of ourselves. We have to destroy that.
Ben yani Kıbrıslı Rumlarla Türklerin birlikte yaşamaması için hiçbir sebep görmüyorum.
I don't see any reason why Greek Cypriots or Turkish Cypriots shouldn't be living together.
Ve bana göre de birbirlerini çok iyi anlayan iki toplumdur bu.
And for me, it's actually two communities that understand each other very well.
Biz Türkiye'lilerle değil, Kıbrıslı Rumlarla birlikte yaşayacağız.
We should be living with the Greek Cypriots, not with the people from Turkey, as Turkish Cypriots.
Now in New York, we are announced that we are starting again the discussions for our problem. You think we are getting closer to a solution?
New York'ta karar alındaki tekrar görüşmeler başlanacak, konuşmalar başlanacak. Sence inanıyor muyum ki yaklaşıyoruz bir çözüme ya da biraz daha?
Hayır, orada tarafların pozisyonlarında hiçbir değişiklik olmadığı için Guterres herhangi bir görüşmeye karar vermedi orada da.
Guterres hasn't actually decided, I think, for a specific negotiations to start, and nothing has changed between what the sides stand for. So there is no really change in either sides where they stand.
Türk tarafı garantörlükte diretiyor, yani vazgeçmiyor garantörlükten.
The Turkish side still wants guarantors.
Ve Türkiye'de orada denizde çıkarılacak olan doğal gazı Kıbrıslı Türkler adına kendi almak istiyor.
And natural resources, the gas from the sea, Turkey wants to take it, not for the Turkish Cypriots, but for itself by using Turkish Cypriots.
Bu şartlar altında olmaz yani bir çözüm anlaşma
Under
olmaz.
these conditions, a solution is not likely.
So we are far from a solution, I guess.
Uzak demek ki bir çözümden şu anda.
Dediğim gibi demin biraz daha akıl koyarsak o kadar uzak olmayız.
If, as he said, if we put some mind and if we look at the past and take out lessons, not really, but we should be doing that.
Having people like you, I believe that we can be positive.
Sizin gibi insanlar oldukça pozitif olabiliriz diyor.
O zaman çoğalmamız lazım.
Then we need to get more of like him thinking.
Thank you so much, Mr. Levin. Thank you.